Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Wednesday, January the 1st, first day of 2025. So a very happy New Year's message to all of you across the country. Well, obviously, this holiday began with a very bad note out of New Orleans, this terrorist attack. So far, from what I can see, a dozen people or so have been killed. There may be more. I read that or so in the news that several people are in the hospital right now in pretty bad shape. So I would expect the number of dead to increase a little bit over the next day or so. So very sad moment for the country and what should be a day of obviously a day of celebration with the parties and first day of the year. I mean, just a lot of celebrating is what you would expect on the first day of the year, but not unfortunately this one because of the incident in New Orleans. Now, you also had, and I don't know if this is related, but there was also a bomb that went off in a Trump hotel. Not a bomb, but I guess a truck that exploded. Now, there were no casualties in that one, no injuries, but not to the same extent as the one in New Orleans. But again, this is unfortunately the kind of thing that I hope we don't have to live with, but it is the kind of thing that we always have to be ready for. I mean, it's just there's simply no other way to describe this. So our prayers with the families. What a terrible way to start off the new year. I saw something that one of the dead in New Orleans was a young man, I think 18 years old, probably out there celebrating the new year like many of us have done before. So what a terrible way, horrible way to get to start the new year, and our prayers with all the families. And obviously we support the police, the authorities, as they look into this and as they check out just exactly what happened and who was behind it. As I said, I don't want to speculate because I don't really have any information other than what happened. And I'll let the authorities clear these things up over the next day or so. But, I'm afraid that this may not be or this may be something we're going to have to live with. Again, we went through some of this many years ago with 9/11, and then things settled down a bit. And I think a lot of people forgot just how serious of a threat these terrorist activities can be. They've lived with it in Europe, but I hate to say it, but I think they may have come to America. So we need for the federal government and the state governments and the local governments and everybody has to support law enforcement at a time like this. So again, terrible, absolutely terrible news out of New Orleans, and what should be a very happy day turned out to be a very bad day for the country because of this act in New Orleans. Let me get happy for a minute here. Congratulate University of Texas. They beat Arizona in an overtime game that I think most of the Longhorn fans probably never thought they'd be going to overtime the way they were playing in the earlier part of the game. But they went to overtime. Arizona had a great comeback. And then they had this incredible touchdown in the overtime and then the interception to stop Arizona. So it was a great victory for the Longhorns. Very deserved. They've had a very good year down in Austin, Texas. The Texas Longhorns have had a great year. And now they're going to be playing in the Cotton Bowl, which is right here in the Dallas area, in the Cowboy Stadium. They're going to be playing there, I guess, on the 10th of January. And they will be playing the winner of the game between Ohio State and Oregon. So that should be quite a challenge for the Longhorns, whoever they play. That should be a great game. That should also be a great game. And to have the Longhorns play in Texas, or here in the Dallas area, that's that's a big plus, of course, for them and for the fans here locally. I mean, that stadium is going to be rocking. Now, they do have seats. I mean, they do have tickets for the other university playing, but I mean, the excitement around here with the Longhorns playing in the Cotton Bowl is going to be sky high. So congratulations to the Texas Longhorn for a tremendous season, a tremendous victory, and that interception that ended the game. That was, I mean, look, we were all scared that they were going to go have to play more overtime because this thing was just going back and forth all day. particularly at the end there, the overtime back and forth. And Texas came up with a great, I mean, the whole thing was great. If you haven't watched the game, watch the replay, because it was an absolutely great game to watch. You know, sort of the kind of great game, classic game you associate with college football on January the 1st over the years. There have been so many. I think we have to add this Texas-Arizona State game to the classics of college football on January the 1st. Well, I've got a post over at the American Thinker today. You can check it out over americanthinker.com, where I talk a little bit about President Carter. You know, President Carter passed away a couple of days ago. He had been in hospice for a couple of years. He was 100 years old. I think he is the first president. In fact, he is the first president to die at age 100. We had a couple who made it to the mid-90s, but President Carter made it all the way to age 100. In fact, I think he turned 100 back in October. And that's quite an achievement. That's also obviously a great credit to his good health that he always had. But you know, when you look at President Carter's career, you have to separate the presidential years with the post-presidential years, because he was really two different men, and the accomplishments were completely different as president, and then later as a former president or ex-president. I remember Carter in '76. He defeated Gerald Ford, then President Gerald Ford, in a very close election. It could have gone either way, just a few thousand votes here or there. Could have gone either way. It was a very close election. He had a huge lead in the summer of '76 after the Democrats' primary, but it began to shrink, and it was shrinking dramatically as we got closer to the election. Then the American people saw the two of them on debates. And even though Carter didn't do poorly, there was no question that President Ford came across as a much better leader. But anyway, on election day, the numbers didn't work out for President Ford. He lost a very close election, and President Carter became president. I never felt that he was ready for that job. I never felt that he was suited for that job. Didn't really have the experience, even the managerial experience, to be president. So his whole presidency was a problem from day one. He was simply never able to grow on the job as other presidents have done. By 1979, he was in huge political trouble. I mean, huge political trouble. Then came the Iranian hostage crisis. Then came the economic crisis, the gas lines, the inflation, the failed rescue attempt. In late April 1980, he was challenged by Senator Ted Kennedy in the primaries. That didn't help him. And frankly, the whole thing just wasn't meant to be. And he lost a huge election to then candidate Ronald Reagan, a big defeat for the incumbent Jimmy Carter. So that's his presidential record. Not a good one by most standards, not one of our better presidents. But then after he left the White House, after a few years doing this and this and that, he got involved in some activities. Probably the most famous one was Habitat for Humanity. And he got involved with that, and I think gave that organization a tremendous boost. Probably brought millions of Americans to participate in that group because of his role, building homes out there. You could see the images on TV of the former president and the former first lady out there with the hammer building homes. And I think that gave President Carter a tremendous boost, tremendous respect with the American people, who I think clearly saw him differently after he left the presidency. So when he passed away, half of the country probably doesn't even remember him, because he left the presidency. It's going to be 44 years in here, January the 20th. He left in 1981. This is 2025. That's 44 years. I mean, that's a whole generation of people who never heard of Jimmy Carter, certainly have no reference to him. I mean, you have to be over 50 years old to remember much of the Carter presidency. Again, 44 years ago. That's a long time. Most presidents don't live that long after they serve. In the case of Jimmy Carter, he was only 56 when he left the White House. He was in very good health, obviously, and he lived to 100. So that's why, for many people, they don't recall his presidency, but I'm sure over the next few days, as the nation remembers him, as we have the funerals, we will know more and remember more of this good man, Jimmy Carter, who passed away last week. But I think overall, a very bad presidential record, but a very good post-presidential record. I think most people would admit to that he did a good job serving the country as a spokesman, as the face of particularly Habitat for Humanity. I think that was tremendous work that he did in that area. He also did other things too. They had this Carter Center down in Georgia. They got involved in different charitable activities and so on. So I think he made up, as a former president, he made up for some of the unfortunate bad work that happened when he was president. We also remember today, I want to take you back to 1959, January 1st, 1959. This was sort of the morning after Batista fled Cuba. And even though Castro didn't come in until like about a week or so later, this was a time of a certain amount of upheaval and confusion in Cuba as we were going from one regime to another. And I have many times spoken to my parents about this day. And, they have a lot of mixed feelings about this day, because even though they wanted change in Cuba, they never thought the change would be what we got, which was a communist regime. So we remember today the big change in Cuba in 1959. Well, Happy New Year's to all of you. Happy New Year's Day. I hope you had a chance to get together with family and friends. And again, regrettable what happened in New Orleans. Horrible thing in New Orleans. And our prayers with all the families of the casualties and the people in the hospitals. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas.